Imagine having a second brain that gets smarter every single time you use it, but literally never ever sells your data. Well, welcome to The Explainer. Today we're diving into a really fascinating open source project from GitHub called the Claude Obsidian repository. This is basically a tool designed to turn Claude Code into a self-organizing AI-powered second brain. It's essentially acting as an open source Notion alternative. So if you've ever wanted to build a knowledge base that actually becomes more useful every time you interact with it, all while retaining absolute, uncompromised control of your files, you're absolutely going to want to pay close attention to this one.
So let's start with a really crucial question that gets right to the heart of the current bottleneck in AI note-taking. When you use AI to summarize a huge document or draft a complex note, where does that information actually go? Is that hard-earned knowledge locked away in some proprietary cloud database? Or, worse, is it silently being uploaded to train a massive, opaque model? For a lot of us who care deeply about data ownership, this black box approach is just a massive roadblock. I mean, you shouldn't have to trade your privacy just to get a boost in productivity, right?
To really appreciate the solution that Claude Obsidian provides, we first need to quickly define personal knowledge management, or PKM. At its core, it's just the systematic practice of capturing and organizing your own ideas and findings so they compound over time. The design of this specific repository follows Andrej Karpathy's LLM wiki pattern. Now, if you follow AI, you know Karpathy's ideas carry some serious weight. The bedrock idea here is building a connected, AI-readable knowledge base using simple, local text files. It's all about bringing the AI directly to your knowledge, rather than surrendering your knowledge to the AI.
There is a stark contrast between these two modern approaches. On one side, standard AI note-taking relies super heavily on cloud lock platforms and black box algorithms. It creates these totally frustrating workflows where your original sources just vanish into a generic summary, basically never to be seen again. On the flip side, Claude Obsidian operates on a completely different paradigm. It is fiercely local by default. It outputs absolutely everything into a connected knowledge graph of plain markdown files that you physically own right there on your hard drive, keeping your sources totally durable and completely intact.
The project's documentation states this perfectly. Your vault remains a normal directory of Markdown, JSON, and source files. And honestly, this is incredibly important for your peace of mind. Claude Obsidian is not some hidden plugin cache, and it's certainly not a factual oracle that replaces your source control. It explicitly forces you to retain ownership. Markdown and JSON are universal formats. This means if you decide to uninstall the integration tomorrow, your notes don't magically turn into unreadable gibberish. You retain absolute control over your lifelong digital brain.
Section 1. The Living Knowledge Loop, a continuous workflow.
Most AI workflows just stop the moment they finish saving a static block of text. You ask a question, you get an answer, and the interaction just dies right there. But this system uses 4 steps to keep that knowledge alive. First, you capture with context, bringing local sources through a visible inbox to preserve immutable copies before any AI synthesis even happens. Second, you ground every important claim, retaining your authority and the freshness of the data. Third, you connect what you learn, physically building visual maps and links using Obsidian canvas views to see the big picture. And finally, fourth, you use the vault again. You query and retrieve what is already known, meaning you actually use your existing knowledge instead of starting every single AI conversation from absolute zero.
The crucial point here is simple but profound. Sources survive the summary. In a world full of AI hallucinations, the notes this system generates always point right back to durable source evidence. What is truly fantastic about this approach is that even unsupported and completely contradictory claims remain totally visible in your vault. It doesn't just invent a citation out of thin air just to please you. A grounded, honest refusal from the system is heavily preferred over making something up, ensuring your second brain remains deeply, truly trustworthy.
Section 2. 15 Skills, 1 System. Coordinated Agent Skills.
To make this living loop function seamlessly, without you having to manually move files around all day, the system is packed with 15 highly specific skills that practically automate your knowledge management. For example, you can invoke Wiki Ingest to turn messy captured sources into beautifully linked pages and proper provenance records. You can use Wiki Query to answer complex questions read-only from your relevant vault evidence. Wiki Lint is like a meticulous personal editor that sweeps through finding dead links, orphan pages, or empty sections. There's even an auto-research skill for bounded, highly focused web research and a Canvas skill that automatically builds visual knowledge maps right in Obsidian.
Section 3. Trusting your second brain. Safe and transactional.
Having 15 different AI skills running around loose in your personal local files might sound incredibly risky, right? You might be wondering, how on earth does the system prevent massive data corruption? Well, I love this phrase from the developer because it perfectly captures how the system's orchestrator works.
parallel agents cannot race to vault. If you've ever had two programs try to save a file at the exact same time, you know it's a guaranteed recipe for corrupted data. Here, worker agents only return drafts and evidence. They absolutely do not get to write directly to your files, which means they can't cause silent overwrites while you aren't looking.
Under the hood, this means one logical knowledge operation is one recoverable transaction. The system works in a really careful sequence, reading every target and recording its expected file hash. Then it lets the parallel workers return their drafts. It merges the complete change into one operation bundle. Finally, it applies the bundle as a single recoverable transaction with atomic replacement. That's really just a fancy way of saying it's all or nothing. If a file changed while the AI was thinking, it stops and flags a conflict instead of blindly overwriting your hard work.
This transparency extends to what the repository calls honest capability boundaries. The system tells you exactly what it can and cannot do. High-risk accepted claims actually require two independent sources before being finalized. Missing capabilities degrade clearly. So, for instance, if it can't trust its advanced AI retrieval, it smoothly falls back to a standard local keyword search known as BM25. And perhaps most importantly, network egress, the act of sending your data out to the broader internet, is always a separate explicit decision that you have to approve.
Section 4. Customizing your vault, shaped to how you think.
Now that we know our data is completely safe, we can look at how the system shapes the vault to match the way your brain naturally categorizes information. You have 4 primary methodologies you can choose from using the Wikimode skill. You can choose generic for standard concepts, or use LYT, which stands for linking your thinking, to build fluid maps of content. There's Para for organizing strictly by projects, areas, resources, and archives. Finally, you can choose Zettelkasten for stable identifiers and dense interwoven links. And the best part? Switching modes only changes how your new notes are routed. It doesn't silently reorganize your old, existing knowledge.
It all boils down to this incredible guiding philosophy from the project: knowledge compounds deliberately. Because every single action, ingestion, querying, linting, and research, shares one unified model that always remembers exactly where it got its information from, your knowledge compounds deliberately over time. Every new article you save, every query you run, and every connection you make builds a stronger, more resilient web of evidence that is always sitting safely right there in your vault.
As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with one final thought to ponder about the future of personal knowledge management. Is your second brain truly yours? As AI becomes more and more integrated into our daily lives, tools like Claude Obsidian prove that we absolutely don't have to surrender our privacy for convenience. You can have cutting-edge AI assistants entirely on your terms. So what are you going to build in your completely private, entirely local vault? Thanks for joining me, and keep exploring.